Last year, a woman walked past my table, and wasn't a book event. It was like maybe like an outdoor Sunday market in my town or something like that. So you had your food vendors and your candle makers and your jewelry people and all sorts of stuff. And so what I do is when someone walks by in a setting like that, I say, "Hey, do you like to read?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you like romance?" And she was like, "No." And I said, "Okay, like what do you like to read?" And she said, "Mysteries and thrillers." So I coaxed her over to my table and I told her about my small town romantic thriller. And she purchased it. She's like, "Okay, I've never read a romance before, but I'll give it a try." And I've created a monster. She is in the smuttiest Facebook groups. She's arc reading for all of these romance authors. She is the biggest romance cheerleader, and I'm so proud of that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Odyssey of a Novel podcast. I'm your host, Emily Elizabeth, and my guest today is Kristie Wolfe, an author 4 times over who is known for her heat-packing romance novels, including the Project Viper series and the Blood Snow series. I believe that you, like me, will be obsessed with Kristie after this conversation and also be a romance novel convert. I'm currently reading her first novel, Too Dangerous to Love, and had to force myself to set it down and come edit this episode so that more people could know about Kristie's books. Award-winning author Kristie Wolfe weaves tales about fearless heroes and badass heroines who fight for justice and love while burning up the pages. As the daughter of a Vietnam veteran, wife of a Marine, and Navy mom, she enjoys writing happily ever afters for not just military heroes, but for all the brave, loyal, and selfless men and women who serve and protect our country in every capacity. Kristie resides in Maryland with her husband, aka her tech support, and her 2 teenagers. Because Kristie has many different books, I'll let her tell you about them in the episode. Also, a quick note about the recording. My internet was struggling during this, but it gives the illusion that at times I can read Kristie's mind. I respond to her a little too quickly. Instead of cover it up in audio editing and sacrifice the video, I didn't want to deprive listeners of the visuals, so please try to overlook the imperfections and just enjoy listening to Kristie. This is part 1 of our chat, so be sure to tune in next week for more. All right. So, you are hopping on the podcast after already doing a whole event today. Tell us a little bit about the event that you did already today.
So I live in Harford County, Maryland, and I was at the Abingdon Library for the third annual Romance Fest. So we did an author panel to kick off this morning around 10 o'clock, and there were 4 of us and a moderator. And so we chatted for a while, for about an hour. And then afterwards, we had like a meet and greet and book signing. So it was a
That's
lot of fun.
so fun. And I was checking out your website. It looks like you do a lot of events and actually travel around quite a bit for some of those.
I do. It's my favorite part of this whole author gig.
That's amazing.
Um, I used to work in I used to work in public relations, and I did in that job. I did a lot of trade shows, like big
Hmm.
technology trade shows all over the country, in the big venues, 3 4 day shows, thousands upon thousands of people, and it was my favorite part of that job.
Wow.
And so I miss that. So this gives that back to me, and I get to talk about books rather than
And who
technology.
doesn't love talking about books?
Exactly.
So you must be one of those rare authors that at least has an extroverted side to you if you love doing events and going out and talking to people.
Yes. And I'm finding I'm kind of a unicorn. There aren't a lot of us.
I literally just did a social media post today about how most authors are introverted, most writers are introverted because it's a pretty solo job. Like, other than when you
Hmm.
start working with your
It
editors or
is, yeah.
publishing team or what have you, it's just you and all the characters, as Frederick Bachman says, that you're making up in your head. So,
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I will. If you don't walk past my table without talking to me, even if you don't want to talk to me, I will make you talk
hey,
to me.
that's a great quality for book sales.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yep.
tell me about your table when you do these events. What do you have? Do you have merch? Do you have signs? What have you got?
So I get a little carried away with my table sometimes. I have gotten up in the middle of the night and come into my office and set things up on my desk because I couldn't sleep because I needed to know like if something fit where I wanted to. I will set up my table in my living room to make sure that my vision works. I bring shelves with me. I stack my books certain ways. I have postcards. I have bookmarks. I love stickers. I have a lot of stickers that I give out. I just got this cute little light with my Viper logo on it that my dad made for me on his 3D printer. And now I'm kind of obsessed with getting more little lights on my
That's
table.
so cool.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into it. And I like it to look professional. I always iron my tablecloths. It's one of my pet peeves. Iron your
Yes.
tablecloth. And I, I like it to look eye-catching, like just appealing, right? Like the way that I look at it is if I want people to take me seriously, I have to present that professional, serious image, right? Not like I'm just going to an event and just, putting a few books on the table with a little sign that says how much they
Totally.
cost. Like that person got out of the house and they came to that event. And I appreciate that. And so I want to put effort
Totally.
into it too. And I always wear burgundy. Burgundy is my logo color. I always
We
wear
are matchy
burgundy.
matchy today. Mine's a
Yes,
little
we
bit more
are.
maroon, I guess, but
Yep. I vary. I have all different shades. And my husband makes fun of me all the time. Every time we get an Amazon package, he's like, "Is that another burgundy shirt?" And 50% of the time, I'm like, "Yeah, it is."
so what?
Exactly.
That
He plays disc golf, that game where you throw like the frisbee into the
yeah, yeah.
baskets. And I'm like, "Did you just get another disc yesterday? How many discs do you actually need?" And so that shuts him up.
Well, your table sounds amazing. I love to hear about
Thank
merch.
you.
Do you make it yourself or do you use Canva? Do you have a company that does it?
So in terms of merch, I don't have like I just printed a few t-shirts for readers. I did like a giveaway in my Facebook group and I did a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt for myself. And I have I do stuff with my book covers on Canva or my cover
Cool.
designer does it. And so she did my bookmarks and like my postcards with the blurb on the back. I just got some magnets
Cool.
printed, some stickers with like my super soldiers and a favorite quote from the book, which people are really enjoying. For Christmas, I sent Christmas cards to my readers. This just happens to be sitting right by me because
That's
I love
so
it. So
awesome.
we did my super soldiers with the Santa
Uh-huh.
hats. And like when I do stuff in my town, like this is my third time at this romance event, there were a number of readers who came over who have read all my books already, or they've read like the first one or the first two. And so, last year they got everything that I had. And so this year I wanted to make sure that I had something a little different. So I got the magnets printed and
That's
stuff like
cool.
that. So I'm building up and my dad is loving his 3D printer. He just made me
Oh, cool.
bookmarks. And so he's having a good time. Yeah, so he's making more of these to give out. And now my husband wants a 3D printer. So we'll have some fun with that and make some bookish things for the
That's
table.
awesome. Well, we dove right into that, but let's take a little bit of a step back. And I would
Mhm.
love to hear about your story. You've obviously had a past life as well in a very different industry. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to where you are now.
So I think I have a lot of us romance writers have the same story where we started reading romance as
Yeah.
teenagers. And so my mom is a voracious romance reader. There were always Harlequins all over my house, like those
Hmm.
really skinny ones,
Yep.
like from the 80s. And when I was probably 12 or 13, I started reading them behind her back, and then she was like, "Okay, like here you go." You're reading. That's fantastic. And I'd always loved to read, right? Like all the Judy
Hmm.
Blume books and, all the age appropriate things. But once I picked up my first Harlequin, I was like, yeah, I'm so beyond anything else that anybody wants to give me. Um, and then I started reading the books with the half naked pirates on the cover and Fabio and loved historical romance and that. And books were just everywhere. Both of my grandmothers read romance. We lived in a two-family house, and the woman upstairs loved romance. And so my mom would be like, go upstairs and get some books. And she would leave brown paper bags outside of her door, like filled to the
Oh my
top for us.
gosh.
I don't think I actually purchased a romance novel until I was in my
Yeah,
mid 20s because people just gave them to me. My family was like,
that's
here you
amazing.
go. And I'd come home from college, I'd bring back a stack and I'd just switch out. I'd give them to my sorority sisters, and it was a lot of fun. So that's how I got hooked on romance. And I decided when I was a teenager, I'm going to do this someday. I'm going to write a book. And so career wise, I was a
Okay.
marketing major. And then I wound up marketing technology. Like my first job out of college, I was an executive recruiter in the technology space. And then that led to working in marketing for technology companies. And so I am not a technology person. I can talk about it on a very, very, very high level. I can write you a press release about it, but that's why I married tech support. I married a guy with 3 computer science degrees, so he could help me load up my new software. But so my career has been in marketing. So I've worked in some advertising, public relations, and I work for a company called Fit Insider now for the past 20 years out of Washington, D.C., and we do government marketing technology.
So, anyways, you married tech support. You were working in marketing and tech for a
Yep.
while. And then where'd we
Yep.
go from there?
So I'm
Hmm.
from New Jersey, and I went to college on Long Island. I went to
Okay.
Hofstra University, and then I moved back to New Jersey. Worked, did the in my 20s, did the single life thing. Then I moved to Connecticut, and I met my husband, and he was a Marine. And so I was in Chicago at a trade show called
Hmm.
Frontline Solutions on the trade show floor. And I was introduced to Captain Gary Clement from the United States Marine Corps. And they had just bought some of the technology that my client
Okay.
sold them. And so they said, you're going to be doing the press release with him, and he's who you're going to quote, and typical stuff like that. So I worked, it was November of 2001. We worked together, we did our thing. And then when we were done, he kept calling me, and I married him 3 years later. So I moved from Connecticut to
Okay.
Quantico, Virginia. No, for Fredericksburg, Virginia. He was stationed in Quantico. We got married in Fredericksburg 3 years. We just met on November 13th, 2001, and I married him on November 13th, 2004. And then 3 days later, we moved to Wisconsin.
Cool. And now you're in Maryland.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I'm in Maryland,
How'd you end up
yes.
there?
Yeah. So when we got married, about a year before we got married, he decided to get out of the Marine Corps, took some time, got his MBA. And then he was like, I'm done with the military. I want nothing to do with the military. I want nothing to do with
Hmm.
the government. So we took a job with
Okay.
Kimberly Clark. And that's how, because they're in Nino,
Okay.
Wisconsin. So that's how we wound up there. And then after 2 years, he realized he needed to go back to his people. Corporate
Hmm.
industry life was a little different than working with military people. So we moved to Alexandria, Virginia. We lived there for 2 years, and then we wound up here in Maryland. We've been here 15 years.
And at what point in that did you start writing?
So I wrote my first book when I was in New Jersey. I was 25 years old, and that was 30 years ago.
No.
And I was working, I was working in Manhattan, and I had met up with some of my sorority sisters from Long Island. Um, and we were in a bookstore, and there was an advertisement for a romance novel writing contest. And I'd been writing my entire life. I was always it just came naturally to me. I can't do a simple algebra problem, but I can get an A on a book. Like I can write a paper for you or take a test on a book I've
Yeah,
never read and ace it.
that's amazing.
Like I can bootstrap my way through anything. And so lots of like things started, and they all knew that I wanted
Hmm.
to write a book. And so they were like, hey, like you should do that. So the contest was 30 days from the day that I saw
Okay.
that ad. So I wrote a 60,000 word novel in 30 days. I had never read a book about how to write a book. I'd never taken a class about how to write a book, but I had read plenty of books, so I totally knew what I was doing. So I write this contemporary romance novel, and the inspiration for it was I hated my friend's boyfriend. So I made him the villain, and that is what I based the entire book
Oh my
around.
gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. He was a lawyer and he owned a bar, and he was just a pretentious, you know what. And I just had a visceral dislike for
Yeah.
this man. So yeah, so he dies at the end. He goes to, I don't think he dies. I think I sent it to jail. I thought that would be
Yeah.
worse than dying. I think I
Oh my
sent him to jail.
gosh.
So I write the book. And so this is
Okay.
1993. And yeah, is that math good? Ish. Okay. Yeah. After I graduated college, 1993. So it might have been, I'm old. And, and I sent it to the contest. I did not win. And then my dad bought me this pink book. It was like
Mm-hmm.
this thick. And it was a book of like romance editors. And so I picked out romance editors and I sent it to 5 publishing companies. And what you do is you send like the
Mm-hmm.
synopsis, you write like a synopsis, which is horrible to write, and then you send like the
Mm-hmm.
first 3 chapters. And I got 5
Yeah.
rejections. But the last one said, "We like this, send us the
Okay.
full manuscript." And then they rejected me. And I had no idea what a win
Yeah.
that was. Like once I met authors in that and I found that like, a full manuscript request is like, let's have a
Yeah.
party, like send me flowers
Totally.
type of thing. Like I actually did have a friend of mine send me flowers when I got a full manuscript request. But I didn't know anybody in the author community, the romance community. And I didn't know what I did wrong. And I wasn't at a point in my life where I was willing to
Okay.
work at it and figure it out. So I was 22 ish when that happened. Um, and so yeah, I was 22 ish. And then another 20 years went by where I would
Mm-hmm.
dabble, right? Like I would start stuff, write down ideas. My job, I wrote press releases, I ghost wrote
Okay.
articles about technology, like the technology people would tell me to write, and then I would make it
Mm-hmm.
pretty and put their name on it. I did stuff like that, a few magazine articles here and there that I had published. And then when I was 47, I decided that I was going to write
Okay.
another book. So it took me 2.5 years. I had little kids. They were, toddlers and like early elementary school age. And I finished that book and I was like, again, I still didn't read a book about how to write a book. Never took a class. I just wrote it. I think I would have learned my lesson the first time. And then I'm like, okay, I wrote this book. What do I do now? And so I was at a birthday party for one of my kids, and one of the preschool moms knew what I was doing because I would like go off in the corner and like, when I was taking my one of the kids to whatever sports they were, and instead of chit chatting with the moms, I would get in the corner with my laptop and finish my book. And so she said to me, "How's the book?" And I'm like, "It's done, but
Now what?
what next?" And she was like, my mother-in-law has published several romance novels. Here, talk to her. So I talked to the mother-in-law and she said, "You need to go to a writing conference, but don't go to the
Mm-hmm.
National Romance Writers Conference because it's really overwhelming. Go to the
That's
New
good
Jersey one
advice.
because it's a nice size and everybody's really nice," right? So I was like, those are
Yeah.
my people, right? I'll go to New Jersey, no problem. So I go. It was wonderful. And I learned there that I had a lot to learn about
Yeah.
writing a romance novel. Yep, and I pitched my book to editors. Everybody I talked to wanted it. I sent it to them. Everybody rejected it, but they told me that I had a strong
Cool.
voice,
That's huge.
encouraged me to keep trying, and they gave me really good feedback, which is a
Yeah.
win, right? Because I learned that when you get one of those
Yeah.
generic form letters, like "thank you very
Yeah.
much, try again." But like if an editor writes you 4 or 5 paragraphs about what they liked and what
Yeah.
they didn't like that's absolute
Totally.
progress. So I joined New Jersey Romance Writers. I joined
Okay.
Maryland Romance Writers, and they hooked me up with
Okay.
the critique group. And then in 2017, I wrote my debut novel, Too Dangerous to Love, which is the first book in the
Yeah.
Project Viper series. And every 2 weeks, we sent each other 15
Wow.
pages, and I did not miss a submission for a whole year. And for a whole year, nearly every weekday morning, I got up at 5:30. I was at my computer at 6. So there were five of us. So the majority of us, every day, at least two or three of us, sometimes all of us, would hop
Yeah.
online together, and we would check in, and then we would write. And I would write from 6 to 7:30 until my kids got up and had to do their thing. And then whenever else I could during the day. And so it took me a year to write that novel. And that's the one that I
Wow.
published first.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is a busy year.
Yes, it was. It was a very busy year.
So, did anything become of the one that you wrote for the contest or the other novel that you brought with you to the conference?
No, back when
Uh-huh.
I was 25. It was so funny. At the panel this morning at the library, one of the questions was, who's like the first person that you let
Yeah.
read your books, right? Like, and so I said, well, the first person who ever read one of my books was my mom. And she was very proud. When I finished the book, she bought me flowers, she bought me a little
Yeah.
teddy bear, and she read the book and she said, I've read worse, I've read better.
Right in the middle.
And now she doesn't want to read the book until it is like out. Like she wants to read like the final product. She doesn't want to read like she wants the full experience, right? She's like, I don't want to read it in between. And I do have like a my process that I go to and my trusted people who get it
Yeah.
at different stages. But no, nothing ever came of that book. I don't know that anything will. Like I don't even know that I want to
Yeah.
open it up because it's probably really cringeworthy.
I feel the same way. I have because like people always ask me, they're like, "So is this your first book?" And I'm like, "Well, it's my first book that's published. There's plenty of books that are sitting in file folders on my desk or on my laptop that never deserve to see the light of day."
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And then the one that I wrote in my 40s that I took me 2.5 years, and then I took it to the conference. I actually just sent that to one of my
Okay.
readers who was like, what else do you like?
Give
Like
me
I read
more.
all your books. Like, what else do you have? Right? Do you have any? Yeah. And so I was like, well, like I liked this one. Like my agent
Yeah.
liked it too. I had written it for Harlequin, and we were like, I like, but Harlequin did it. Like, it's not professionally edited, but here you go. Like, I would love to do something with it. Let me know what you like and what you
Yeah.
didn't like. So we'll see
Cool.
what comes of that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And let's hear a little bit more about your books. So there are four of them and two
Yes.
different series. Tell us about well, since
Yes.
Project Viper was the first, tell us a little bit about Project Viper.
Yep. Sure. So this is Project Paper. So this is
Uh-huh.
Too Dangerous to Love. And I do two
Okay.
covers. So I do your traditional man chest cover because teenage Kristie was not publishing a book with having a half naked guy on the cover. It just wasn't happening. But because of dark romance and fantasy, your discrete covers are
Yeah,
very
totally.
popular now. And so
Yeah.
I did both. So
Yeah.
you have a choice. And I never know which one is
Do
going
you
to sell
bring them
better.
both
Like
every
when
time?
I'm today,
Okay.
I do. Yes. And then I curse myself because books are
Yeah.
heavy. And I'm like, why did I do this? But like this one, I sold one of these today. And I sold like, for Too Dangerous to Love,
Yeah.
I sold six of these today. And so, like, I don't know, right? And the next event I go to, it
Mm-hmm.
might be more of these. So it's about a team of special forces amputees, and the military has given them bionic weaponized prosthetics and turned them into super
Cool.
soldiers. So he's got a bionic arm that
Okay.
shoots deadly lasers, and he thinks he's too dangerous to love because he's a human weapon, and he falls for the shy scientists that helped create him. So it's an opposites
That's
attract romance.
perfect. That's amazing.
Yep. And there's two more books out in
Yeah.
that
And do they
series.
tie together or are they stand alone?
They're
Okay.
interconnected standalones. So there's four guys on my team, and everybody will get their own love story. Yeah, so I have three books out, and then I'm working on the prequel that'll come out in July for my
Okay.
newsletter subscribers, and then the fourth book will come out at the end
Cool.
of the year.
And
Yeah, so here are my boys. We have Chris, Kane, and
amazing.
Nick, and then Link will get his story at
Okay.
the end of the
And
year.
that's the prequel.
That's
Okay.
the prequel, yeah.
And obviously your husband was military and I think your kids are too, right?
Mhm. My
Okay.
son's in the Navy. He's been in for about a year.
Okay.
He's a Navy corpsman. And my husband was a Marine and my dad
Okay.
was in the Air
So
Force.
is that pretty much the inspiration for that that storyline or that setting, or where did all of it come from?
Um, so in after I finished the book that I took to the New Jersey Romance Writers Conference. It's called Tempted by Vegas, so
Okay.
I call it Vegas. So after I finished Vegas, I was looking for something else to write. And I used to I taught aerobics for
Wow.
25 years and I was a personal trainer. And I haven't done it since COVID, but at the time I was teaching water aerobics to a group of women, mostly senior citizens, twice a week. And we were at the pool, finishing up class one day, and the lifeguard comes over with this big coffee
Mm-hmm.
table book, and it was photographs by a photographer named Michael
Okay.
Stokes, and he did a book called Always Loyal, and it was wounded warriors, and most of them were amputees, and most of the pictures they were all pretty much naked, and they were gorgeous. They were
I bet.
smoking hot
Yeah.
photos, right? And they were just artistically beautiful. And I was like, oh, like, okay, that's what I'm going to write about next, right? I'm going to write about a wounded warrior. And so I had written to contemporaries before, and so I thought it might be, I don't know, maybe I'd write about him falling in love with his physical therapist, or maybe he'd have a service dog and fall in love with his neighbor. That's the direction I was going in. Then shortly after, I go to the New Jersey Romance Writers Conference and I'm listening to an editor talk. And she was saying, I would love to see books about maybe like DNA enhanced soldiers and like super smart STEM
Yeah.
heroines. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm writing. That's what I'm gonna write. Like that's what I'm doing with my amputee. Like he's gonna lose an arm, he's gonna get a bionic one, and there's gonna be a super shy, sheltered genius who is going to help create him, and it's gonna be an opposites attract. And like 30 seconds, like that editor said that, and I was like, got it. Know
That's
what I'm doing
so
now.
cool.
And then the whole military part just fell into place. And because I work in
Mm-hmm.
government marketing technology, I know a lot of the buzzwords, right? Like I know on a very high level about
Yeah.
cybersecurity. We do a lot of health technology webinars. And so I drew from that. There were people that I could call and ask questions, be like, this is what I want to do. Can you help me? Like, this is how I'm describing it. Can you help me
Yeah.
describe this better? Right. I know this doesn't happen in real life, but if it could, and so those resources were wonderful. I have a helicopter in here, and my husband was a
Okay.
helicopter pilot. So it's like, how does it sound, right? Like he helped me with that. I blow up a plane. My dad flew planes in Vietnam, so I sent him a note. I'm like, Dad, I need to blow up a private plane at a private airstrip. What kind of plane should I blow up? And then he sent me like all these suggestions with links and pictures and everything.
That's amazing.
So it's fun, yeah. And my character, so as you know, probably expected, he lost his arm in combat. He's got some
Yeah.
issues, right? He has some PTSD and some nightmares. And my dad has PTSD from Vietnam.
Okay.
So I grew up with a veteran that way. So the parts about his nightmares and his PTSD and how it affected him are directly from my life and from what I've learned
Yeah.
about it growing up.
Is your readership primarily military or all across the board?
All across the board. I mean, two of my biggest fans are in Australia. So, so like they're loving, US military
Yeah,
soldiers.
that's amazing. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
How long did it take you to write? I know there's multiple books, like the first book, start to finish. How long did it take?
Mhm. That book
Okay.
took me a year. That's the one I wrote with the
That's right.
critique
That's right.
group. The book two probably took me about
Okay.
9 months. And then book three. See, I spent a lot of time procrastinating. I spend a lot of time just tinkering around, not doing much. And then when I really got down to book three, it probably took me about 6 months. And now this prequel is only probably 3 months or so have I been actively like really
Okay.
working on it. I have a lot of trouble
Yeah.
starting new books. I get terrible imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, I don't know how to do
Yeah.
this. Yeah, I can't do this. And then I have to remind myself, okay, I have to look at my books, look at my posters, be like, yeah, okay, I've done this before. I can figure it out again. And then I also have to remember, like, the first ones, the first draft always
Yes.
sucks, right? Like I have gone through this where I don't know what to write next, and just have to trust that it's all going to
Yeah.
come together.
You,
And it has 4 times, so it
you
can
can do
happen
it a
again.
fifth time. Yeah. Are you somebody are you
Odds
somebody who
are.
works with an outline? Are you like a plotter or do you just fly by the seat of your pants?
No, nope. I fly by the seat of my pants, but I'm coming into my own process with this book with the
Okay.
prequel that I'm working on, and it's really
Hmm.
kind of nice. And so I think when I work on my next book and I follow this process, I will be able to not be so
Hmm.
intimidated by it and get it done a lot quicker. And I'm really just figuring out what works for my mind
Yeah.
and my life. Yeah, I can't do the get up at 5:30 in the morning any longer and write till 7:30 because I have a teenage daughter and she gets up at 5:30 in the morning. And so, she's asking me, can you, of course I'm
Hey,
running late. Can you start my
yeah.
coffee for me? I can't find my favorite pair of sweatpants and the dogs are up and they want to go out. And so I've had to find other times and
Yeah.
morning is my time.
Yeah.
And so I've had to, yeah, find other ways
But
to do it.
you talked about like writing at sporting events and stuff and that's also mentioned on your website.
Yep.
Active at almost
Hmm.
any place or any time of day.
Yes, I've learned to be very, very creative. My laptop comes
Okay.
everywhere with me. And if I'm in a place where I know that like having the laptop is not going to be conducive,
Yeah.
depends where I am, right? Like if I'm in editing, I'll print out the chapters I want to work on, or like if I'm in the beginning of a book, I'll bring the book Save the Cat with me, which is, like an outline type of resource. I write on my phone sometimes when I'm in the car. I've recently started leaving myself messages
Like
when I'm in the
voice
car,
messages?
and that's been my new process.
Okay.
Yes, yep. So I drive, I hit my little screen, I say send a message to Kristie Wolf, and then I talk, and then I hit send, and then I send myself another message, and that's my new process I'm realizing because I spend a lot of time in the car with all the
Yeah.
places that I go. Um, and I like to be in the car by myself. It just relax, like it's my time to read my book, listen to music,
Yeah.
nobody bother me. And so I'm utilizing that time to plot my books, to have my characters, the conversations that I'm having in my head that I'm going to forget by the time I get where I'm going. I can
Yeah.
record them. And then my new process is I use an Excel. I've tried
Hmm.
Scrivener. I've tried like all of the formal things, a lot of the formal things that you can do. I got a whiteboard behind me that just has a really rough timeline on it. Like most of the time it's blank, right? So what I've done, what I'm doing, and it's really working, is I have an Excel spreadsheet, and what I did was I made a tab for like my
Okay.
main characters, and I made a tab for chapters, and then like I made a tab that says like explosion, like or like the first kiss or whatever.
Okay.
And so as I things come to me, I put them in
Uh-huh.
those tabs. And then as I write chapters, and I stopped numbering chapters, I started just saying chapter where he finds out
Yeah.
about her father, right? And then I have those ordered and I'll go back and I'll number them. And this is the first book I've done that for. Because when you know that you have to go back and put something in or fix something, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out what
Yeah.
chapter it was in, right? Like I kind of know where it is. But if I label them that way, I know where to
Totally.
go back. And then I have another tab that says add and another tab that says fix. So like when I'm writing and I'm like, oh, I got to add that, I'll throw it in my Excel spreadsheet so I don't waste time going back and fix. And so I mean, I guess it's kind of like outlining maybe. I don't know, but it's
I
working
mean,
for me.
this is fascinating to me because this is the most unique writing process I've ever heard, and I love it. Um, I so what
Yeah.
you obviously aren't writing the book in Excel though. Where do you go from the Excel spreadsheet, or are you? Okay.
Into a Word document, right? So like with this one, I had like 4 or 5 solid
Okay.
chapters that I got out. And then I had another four chapters that were just a mess, right? It was, just
Mm-hmm.
word vomit. And
Yep.
then I have a bad habit of trying to make every chapter or every scene nice and
Mm-hmm.
clean and the way that I want it and then moving on, which isn't efficient, right? Because you sometimes you scrap whole
Totally.
chapters. Like I could spend an hour on a sentence and then I
Yeah.
don't need it anymore. Um, but I liked, because I like things neat, right? I like things organized and I get antsy when they're not. In my physical space, it's the same
Yeah.
with my writing. And so I'm forcing myself to just leave it and go back to it, which is
Yeah.
hard. And then I forget where I went someplace. Oh, I went to the Catskills in January. So I had a 5 hour
Wow.
drive. And I have a deadline, of next week to get my manuscript to my developmental editor. And I was like, okay, like I gotta figure this out, right? And so I had like, a lot of talking into my phone, but never that much. And so I spent hours on the way there and hours on the way back. And I came home and I had all these messages, and I'm uh, like, this is a lot. What do I do with this? And so that gave me the idea of the Excel spreadsheet. And so then I went through like each character and I was like, okay, like this is what I said and this is where I want this to happen. And so then I would just create a chapter based on like, chapter where he gets mad at
Uh-huh.
his sister. And then I would put that piece in there. And then it just all starts coming
Yeah.
together, right? Because, I'll combine this and I'll combine this. And then you go to what she wants to do. And so it all just kind of stacked and worked out. And my editor who did the first two Viper books, one of the things she would always tell me was those little details when you start connecting them,
Yeah.
just mushroom and really build your
Yeah.
backstory and just make your characters deeper, make things more personal, make things make sense. I'm finding I'm connecting those dots quicker
Cool.
with the
With
process
this
that I'm
process, do
using,
you think it has to do with the fact that this is your
with this weird process.
you don't think it has to do with your this is the fact that this is your fifth book or
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, yeah. I've tried different things. Yes, yes. And I've tried using an Excel spreadsheet for other things. And, like doing a tab per
Mhm.
each chapter, and that didn't work. But it's just a way to organize it all. And so I'm not just throwing it into a Word document. I'm just scrolling and scrolling to find out what
Yeah.
goes where. So like when I cleaned a few weeks ago, I cleaned my
Uh-huh.
hall closet, right?
While
And so what I do
procrastinating.
is I take everything, I spread it all out, right, while I'm procrastinating writing my novel because I need to feel like I'm accomplishing something and
Yeah.
I'm controlling something. So
Yeah.
I clean my whole closet. And I just took everything out on the floor. I put it into categories, and then I decided, this pile is for shelf A, this pile is for shelf B, this pile is for shelf C. And then I got all my little containers and I did it per shelf. And then I
Yeah.
put it all back, and it's nice and well, it's not pretty anymore because it's been a few weeks. And that's the way I look at this, right? And so my Excel spreadsheet is those piles
Yeah.
and those classifications, and then I put it all back in the closet in my work
So
in
this is a
progress.
glimpse into your brain, essentially. If that like since you use this
Yeah, I
in
guess
multiple
so.
different facets of life.
I don't know what it says about me, but
Well, what's so interesting to me is it is a type of like plotting. It is like a type A kind of thing,
it
but it's
is. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
different from what is like talked about. But it just goes to show you that like writing is such an individual process and it's different for everybody and you just got to find what
It
works for
really
you.
is. And you can't force yourself to do something. And then, like, are you familiar
Mhm.
with Save the
Yep.
Cat? So, and I will go back and I will make sure that, like, I will have my Save the Cat document. I will have another tab for
Yeah.
Save the Cat, right? And I will, like, keep track and make sure that I'm hitting those. I use Romancing the Beat, and I will do the same thing
Yeah.
for that. But it is, it's not
Yeah.
structured for me. Like I'm getting the information out as it's coming to me. I don't feel the pressure of what
Yeah.
comes next. Like you did this and now you have to go on to this. I can go
Yep.
6 steps ahead and then I can still come back. And just having it in that Excel spreadsheet rather than in a Word document, or I tried note cards, and they work
Okay.
later in the process. But I do love a spreadsheet. I will probably color code it at some point because that
Same.
makes me
Same.
happy. Yeah. And then when I get like into like after I talk with my so once I have like a
Hmm.
clean document, right? Not a clean document, but like a complete story and a draft, and it goes through the developmental edits, I will probably make another Excel spreadsheet and like make categories of like the changes that
Hmm.
she suggests. And then that's when I bring
Okay.
in the note cards. And so then when I start writing and I'm like, oh, I need to, like those little details, right? Like you need to go back and change someone's eye color, or like you need to go back and make sure that you foreshadowed
Yes.
that or whatever. I'll make a note card for that little detail. And then I will just have a pile of them. And then I'll categorize them
Okay.
into chapters, and then at the end, like once I've worked everything out, I will just go chapter by chapter and go through each note card
Okay.
and make the changes, because then I can take that all with me, like
Yeah.
if I'm, when I go to the pool or when I go, to wherever it is that to the barn, we,
I
we
do
have a
too.
horse. I can just take those with me.
Yeah.
Oh, these are
His
cool.
name
What's
is
your horse's name?
Keys, Kees. And I actually keep him in
Aw.
Green Bay, so I'm down by Appleton all the time. So, as often happens with horse people, Kristie and I went on a little tangent there, talked about horses for quite a long time, so I cut all that out. I don't think that's why you all are here. I am going to take just a moment before we get to the very last bit of this episode. Again, we have a second one coming with Kristie to say if you are enjoying this, if you are feeling inspired by Kristie, if you have a romance novel or any kind of novel you want to write, the podcast is affiliated with the Indie Author School. It's an online school that will teach you how to write, edit, and publish your book so that you could be on this podcast one day talking to us about how you achieved your dream, how you're selling books. Wherever you are in your journey, if you're just writing, if you have a manuscript and you're ready to edit it, or if you've got a full book and you're just like, I'm ready to publish it, there are different courses for you at the Indie Author School. Also, as a reminder, if you're liking this podcast, the best ways to support it are to subscribe to my Substack page, The Writer on the Water. If you become a paid subscriber, that continues to support this podcast. If you don't have the funds, you can also like, follow, subscribe, anything to just give more traction to the podcast. Review, rate, all of those things. I am grateful for all of them. Let's dive in to the last little bit with Kristie. Well, I have so many places that I want to go because you started talking about developmental editor, and I'm so excited to hear more about that process for you. But before we dig into that, we totally walked away from your other series. Do you want to talk about what that one's about for a
Oh
second
yeah.
before we dig into your process a little more?
So knife to the heart. Yep, I only have the first book so far. So this is my small town
Cool.
romantic thriller, and it takes place in a Colorado ski town. There's been a
Where?
terrorist attack, and it's an
Okay.
enemies to lovers. So she's the FBI agent. He thinks that he's the
Okay.
one with the badge. They have deeply personal reasons about how they want to handle the situation, and they are in direct
Uh huh.
opposition with each other. So they argue. It's an enemies to lovers. He's all, this is my town. This is the way we're going to do things. And she's like, I'm the agent, buddy. I don't think so. So there's a lot of sarcasm. There's a lot of snarky
Yeah.
banter in there. And I love romantic suspense because I get to take all of the external stuff that's going on, right? All of that adrenaline and
Mm-hmm.
intensity and all of those big emotions, and then I get to transfer that into my character's
So
relationship
cool.
and into the sex scenes.
That's amazing. I do want to hear about that process a little bit. I'm very curious to know why a Colorado ski town.
Yeah, this is kind of you, right? Okay, so this book is specifically, and I don't get into the specifics of it because when I pitch it at like this morning when I was telling people about it. But this book is about a ransomware attack on a
Okay.
hospital. And so, and some people are like, what? What does that mean? So it's
Yep.
cybersecurity, right? And so there is a cyber criminal, and what they do, this happens
Mm-hmm.
all the time, they seize your network, they block access to everything that you have, all of your assets, all of your information. Like if it
Mm-hmm.
happens at a bank, right? Like people have your social security number. And then they tell you to send them thousands, millions of dollars, however much, and they will give you the encryption
Mm-hmm.
code to get your data back. And so, because of my job, we do educational IT briefings and webinars
Okay.
in the government space. My sole job with the company is to recruit
Okay.
our speakers. So I work with public affairs officers and technology leaders from every military agency, every federal agency in the country, and state and local as well.
Wow.
So we're doing a healthcare technology webinar about security. And I'm listening to the CIO of a hospital in
Mm-hmm.
Washington State talk about a ransomware attack that they had last year. And he's talking about all the good things they did, right? Like all the preventative
Yeah.
measures, right? Like everything they did, of course, nobody, the FBI does not want you to pay the ransom. We don't negotiate with terrorists. And long story short, nobody died. But then he started talking about all of the bad things
Yeah.
that could have happened, like medication errors and ambulances being routed to the wrong place and all that stuff. And I was like,
A novel.
oh, that's really cool. I'm going to write a book about that. And so the CIO got on the phone with me and three of his engineers for like 2 hours, answered all of my questions, gave me all like the buzzwords and
Yeah.
everything that I needed. And I was like, great, I know what the crime is, but now I need to figure out
Yeah. What
what's going to
else?
happen, right? And so I knew that I knew I wanted a female FBI agent, and she just, of course,
Mm-hmm.
not want to pay the ransom. And then my doctor, for very personal reasons,
Okay.
wants to pay the ransom. So that's
Cool.
where they clash. And I was going to make it in
Uh-huh.
New York City, right? It was going to be at I have my cousin's wife in 2003 had a heart attack, and she spent 5 months in Columbia
Okay.
Presbyterian Hospital. And so, in heart of New York City, right? Like, and so I had
Mm-hmm.
that in my head, and I wanted to make my FBI agent really tough, and I wanted
Mm-hmm.
her to be a badass. And so I was thinking, like what does she do besides be an FBI agent that makes her a badass, right? And so I decided to make her a
Love it.
snowboarder because I think snowboarders are the coolest in the world. And that's how we got to a
That's
Colorado ski down.
amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, I tried snowboarding once. It was more painful than childbirth. Um, and so that's why I have a deep respect for snowboarders. And I used to love to. I haven't been skiing in quite a while, but when I was on the ski lift, I used to love to
Yeah.
watch the snowboarders. And I will. There was this one time, right? I was actually at the bottom. I had just finished my
Uh-huh.
green run because I
Yep.
never go off the greens, and I was waiting for my son to finish his snowboarding run on one of the tougher ones, right? And this woman comes down, and I had seen her from the ski slope, and it was a warmish day, and she had on a black tank top and her ski pants, right? And she's like
Yeah.
riding the rails, and I'm like, oh my God. And she comes down and she takes off her helmet, and her long black hair is flying everywhere, and total
Yeah.
girl
Yeah,
crush, right?
totally.
I was like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
want to be her. She's so awesome. And so that's who I had in mind
That's
for
so
Rosalie in
cool.
this
And it's
book.
so funny that that was just like a chance encounter and she now exists in print,
Yeah.
essentially.
It's funny that like people are like, where do you get your ideas from? And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like a word or a phrase or a song or whatever can just like spur
Yeah.
a whole
In my
book.
in my writing class, one of the exercises I tell people to do is take a notebook and a pen and just go somewhere out in public and like people watch and
Hmm.
pick a person and write a story for them. Like write a backstory. You never know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's amazing. So many connections here with the horses and the Colorado and Wisconsin, all across the board.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so, what's the status on book two in that series? Or is it
So my plan was Too Dangerous to Love and Knife to the Heart were done when before I publish. Like we're done when I decided I was going to publish. So I did Too Dangerous to Love, and then a few months later I did
okay?
Knife to the Heart, and I was going to flip flop the books, but then my writer friends said, no, you need to complete a series because people like
Yeah.
a completed series. And even though they're interconnected standalones,
Yeah.
people want the whole series. So this year I'm finishing up the Viper series with the prequel. And then I hope by the end of the year to have if my new process is legit and works well for me again, the fourth book should be out by the end of the year. And then I'll go back to Knife
Cool.
to the Heart. So he has three friends. Um, and so his sister and
Hmm.
her ex are have a little thing going in the book, and so they'll
Okay.
be the next book. And so everything is tied up nice and tight at the end. If I didn't tell you there was going to be another book, you wouldn't even, well, you might know because you would hope that
Yeah.
those two hooked up, but um, everybody's happy. And then I'll untie one of those knots to create the plot
Okay.
for the next book. And that's my mom's favorite. And so she's on me. She keeps asking me every few weeks if I
Yeah.
started that next book
Yeah.
yet.
That's
So I
awesome.
promise that'll be the first thing in 2027 as soon as I finish up Viper. And Viper will be done for now. I'm going to do sub series because there's several characters who
Yeah.
need their own books.
That's amazing. Um, all of them sound
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. I have a lot of books in my head. I just got an idea last month for again, just based on
Uh-huh.
a phrase. I want to write a smutty New Year's Eve
Love it.
book that I would love to get out for this year,
Yeah.
if not next year. And so I'm toying with, and that just, so, and that will likely be a series because I'm going to have to create side characters. And then once I create a side character, if they show, any sort of whatever, I like to give them
Yeah.
something else. So, make more work for myself. And I have a dark
Okay.
romance that I want to
Do
write.
you think for the New Year's Eve one, each sequel or each different book would be a different holiday, or they'd all be New Year's Eve?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
As I work in a bookstore,
Yeah,
and
that would be
holiday
fun, right?
books are just such an easy sell. Everybody wants something
Yeah,
around a certain
they
holiday.
really
Yeah.
are. The second book in the Viper series, Too Lethal to Love, takes place during
Oh, awesome.
Christmas. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
think Die Hard, but with a lot more holiday stuff. So he calls her Sugar Plum, and she gets mad if there's not a Christmas tree in every room, and it culminates on
That's
Christmas
so
Eve.
awesome.
So that's my holiday book. Yeah, and I didn't mean to write a holiday book, but the first place book takes
Okay.
place in November, and then it made sense for the second
Yeah.
book to start
Just keep
just a few
going.
weeks after, and so it wound up being a Christmas book. But I like your idea, right? Like I could do a Halloween book and an Easter book, and I have an idea. I have a book started that takes place during Easter, and it's actually the main character, the female, decides to give up men for
That's
Lent.
amazing. That's amazing. That sounds like a great book. See?
And so talk about how you
Yeah.
get ideas, right? At least my son is 20, so probably 10 years ago, I volunteered with his scout troop to cook pancakes for a
Okay.
pancake fundraiser at a church that they did like right
Uh-huh.
before Lent started. And one of the moms asked me, I wasn't published yet, like nowhere near, but one of the moms knew what I was doing, and so she was asking me about like my romance ideas. And then somebody said something like, I must have said like maybe like I can like take any situation and make it into a romance or something like that. And one of the guys was probably like, "Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
what would you do here?" And I was like, "Well," and then that's how I got the idea of like the woman who is challenged by her sister to give up men, like no
Nothing
kissing,
for
no
Lent.
sex, like no dates,
And
nothing for 40 days.
presumably,
Yeah, for Lent. However
I
long
think
Lent
it's
is.
40 days. And presumably she meets a
It
guy
does more.
during this
Yeah, I
time
think it's 40
period.
days. Oh yeah, yeah. Yes. So yeah, that would be fun.
That's amazing.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for the rest of my chat with Kristie. Odyssey of a Novel podcast is a Writer on the Water Press production. All writing, editing, and producing are done by Emily Elizabeth.